Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it? You already know. Like a motherfucking smack addict. Bye. Look, in a menudo style direct fashion, we're going to get straight into the content of the day. But before we do, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Ding. Put your notification bell on all, so that way you're directing the direction of the dope content that I'm kicking. And I highly appreciate all the support, man. We're going up on this channel. It's all because of you. And for that, I could say I'm very humbled and I'm very much appreciative. I know I couldn't do it without you, so gracias. So last week, Dubs did a video. And I think the title or the topic of, I know the topic, but the title of the video was something to the effects of, would Vatos from Texas be able to maintain or survive or function in the California prison system? Okay, and Tim Snow, shout out to Tim Snow, Texas Prison Stories. He chimed in on the situation and basically reacted and let Dubs know how he felt about the system. And I could see he wasn't seeing eye to eye on the situation. He had a different take on it. And everybody's going to have a different take on prison according to what they believe, what they've done. Different group segments, different tiempo, right? You could be on the same yard with someone else, and if they're from a different group, their outlook on that yard is going to be different, because maybe for that yard, they're deeper, or maybe for that yard, they're following different palabra, different word, different rules, different politics. So it's always going to be different. You're going to get different perspectives depending upon what your gang affiliation is, who you are, what's up. But to just keep it even and say, would Vatos from Texas be able to function on a general population mainline yard in prison, the California prison system? My take on it is yes, absolutely. See, it doesn't matter where you're from. None of that has ever mattered. It doesn't matter if you're from a different state, if you're Italian, if you're fucking Somalian, if you're from Pennsylvania, if you're from Hawaii. All that matters in the California system is what's on your jacket, what your charges are, and who you run with. That's what matters the most. And of course, respect, ultimately. If you have no respect and you're a disrespectful, obnoxious individual, well, you're going to find out what metal feels like inside you, amongst other things. I'm telling you right now, you cannot go in there disrespecting people's chante, disrespecting people's state or their pad, and think because you're from out of state, that's the way it's ran, like what you're used to, because it's not. See, every different state varies. And California and Texas, being the two biggest southwestern states, or the two biggest western states, have always been in a lightweight battle or at odds, right? Quietly as it's kept, no matter what anybody says, Tejanos have distanced themselves from California, and California has distanced themselves from Texas. Whether it's the rap game, whether it's prison or the streets or street gangs, there's a vast difference. Now, California does have an incredible and big influence on other states. Let's just keep it real. Everybody, in some form or fashion, looks at California as the ones who started this gangster shit, right? They look at California gangs as some of the founding fathers of gangbanging, right? There's, on the streets, there's gangs in Texas like the Crips, the Bloods, Southsiders, even some Norteños, not very many, but there are. But there's no Texas gangs in California, okay? And that's because California is filled to population and an abundance of street gang members homegrown in the state of California. Now, Californians do wander a little bit. They do travel from state to state and set up shop. I know in the 80s and the crack epidemic, in the early 90s, there was a lot of brothers, man, that were moving state to state because dope was harder to get in different states. So they were moving, setting up shop, and influencing those around them in the ghettos and the neighborhoods to become Crips and Bloods and Bay Cats and whatever, right? And there was a lot of Southerners. There's Southsiders everywhere in all the states, in all the countries, pretty much. Their influence is worldwide. And of course, we know that's a gang that was started in California. Now, as far as the prison system, will you find Texas gang members in the prison system. I've done time with Texas gang members. I've done time with vatos from Tango Blast, from Tango Orijones, from San Antonio, and just guys that were from Texas, but not necessarily were a part of an organization or a gang. Okay, but these gentlemen, they chose up. So when they got to the California system, they realized that it was a vast difference and much different from Texas. See, in California, a lot of politics are played. You know, and it's all about the politics. And I won't even say played, but I'll say adhered to. It's all about political things, racial makeup. And that's just the way it's always been in California. You're going to mind somebody. You're going to be affiliated or a part of a group, or you're going to get ran over. See, in Texas, it's a little bit different. They do have their politics and their rules, but there's a little bit of everybody on the yard. And I can't sit there and tell you the ins and outs of the Texas prison system, because I only know from people like Tim Snow, who's done an extensive amount of time there, how it's ran and how it is. You know, when I want to hear about Texas prisons, I turn to Tim, because he's the guru of the Texas prison system. You know, and I respect his words. I trust his words, and I respect him as a person. And I know what he says is the way it is, because he's done some time. Now, Tim Snow is a self-admitted Crip, or did run with the Crip car, you know, or was a Crip, whether it be on the streets or in prison. And of course, like I said, man, that is a gang that was started in California, in Los Angeles, right? How they made it out there to Texas, again, it probably was, you know, I can't tell you. I'm sure Tim could tell you his life story and how he ended up being a Crip, a white Crip at that, right? But he definitely, there is some California influence there on his gang. That's a fact. That's something you can't deny. Now, when I did time with the guys from Texas, these guys were either Southerners or they ran with the Northerners. Now, let me explain something to you. When you go into the system and you're of Latin descent, Mexican, we're just going to speak on the Mexicans for a minute, right? Or Guatemalans or Salvadorians or Nicaraguans or any of that. Honduras, right? South American, Latino, right? Which I consider raza. Raza to me is not just Mexicans. It's all Latinos. But that's my beliefs. That's me, right? And you go into the prison system in California, you're going to get jammed up. You're going to get asked who you affiliate with. Now, for guys that haven't been in the California system, I'll tell you this straight up. You should already know by the county jail. You should already know by reception. You're not going to go through the county fighting your case or through reception and get all the way to the main line and then choose up at that point. You're already part of something by the time you get there, no matter where you're from. Okay? Now, say you're a non-affiliate from Texas. You're a Chicano or Tejano, and you're not part of a gang, you're not a gang member, and you're visiting family out in California, and for whatever reason, you get caught up, and it's a solid case, meaning it's not a sexual case, it's not a weirdo case, it's a solid case. You do a robbery with the primo from California or whatever, and you're in Southern California. You fall out of LA, South Central LA, or West LA, or South Los, or East Los, or wherever, right? LA. And you get locked up in LA County Jail, guess what's going to happen? More than likely, you're going to start functioning you got two different choices there. You're either going to start functioning up under the Southsiders with them. Doesn't mean you are a Southsider, it just means you function with them and you go by their politics and their rules. Or you're going to function with the Paisas. Okay, that's your choice ultimately. But if you get caught up in Southern California, those are your two options. Period. You're not going to say, hey, I'm from Texas, I just do me, and that's it. You might be able to wiggle and get away with that for just a little while, but the politics in California trump everything, and eventually you're going to have to get in with the Southerners or the Paisas. Now, let's take the same story and reverse it and put you up in Northern California. If you get locked up, you have two choices there. You could either run with the Paisas or up under the Northerners, the Norteños. That's a fact. That's just what it is. Doesn't mean you have to become a Norteño, but you're going to function alongside them. Now, with the Norteños, they don't have residents. They don't have people that are just kicking it. You're either in with the functions or you're all the way the fuck out. So more than likely, you yourself become a Norteño or you're going to get fucking eliminated from that building, from that block, right? And you're probably either going to get in with the paisas or you're going to get fucking beat up everywhere you go. Doesn't matter how down you are. And they're not doing it because you're from the state of Texas or any other state. They're doing it because that's how it's ran. If you want to be in on the reindeer games, homie, then there's rules you must follow. Period. Don't matter who you are. So by the time you would get to the state prison, to general population, to the main line, you're already rocking with a group. That's how it is. Now, I watched JD, who just came back on the scenes. Respects to JD. I love his channel, Prison Raw, right? And the Prison Raw channel. And I seen him do a video that's similar to this topic right here. And it said, who's more gangster, Texas or California? The fact of the matter is, I don't think there's no dispute or no debate. I think every state is gangster. I think everybody got gangsters in them, and I think everybody got cowards. That's the truth, right? But as far as Texas guys being able to establish, and that's what Dub's video was about, Vatos being able to establish their prison gangs in California, that will never happen. Okay, that's not going to happen. The reason it's not going to happen is things have changed from the past. Now, we all know about Texas Syndicate. And if you don't know, Texas Syndicate is a Texas group, an organization that was started in California state prisons back in the 70s. Okay? Now, around that time, two of the big four were just establishing roots. They were just implementing certain things on them yards in California. And they were picking soldados, and their soldados were righteously maintaining on them yards. And a lot of these guys were being slammed in the back in the shoes. And they were validating a lot of prison gang members. And this is what was going on in California. So it was a very vicious time. I think there was more murders in the California prison system in the 70s than any other year, any other decade, right? And there was a gang that was started. There was a handful of guys from Texas that were doing time in California. And back in them days, it wasn't like the way it is now, where you have to choose up in the county, choose up in fucking reception, and then go out to the yard already affiliated. It was a lot less loose, a lot less structured. So as long as you were Chicano, Mexicano, you kicked it with your gente. Okay? Well, when they got into prison, because these prison organizations were being established and you had to choose up, they felt as if they didn't want to choose up. They didn't want to go by the politics of one prison organization or the other. And so they started their own, okay? And it became the Texas Syndicate. Now, in them times, they went at it with the Northerners and the Southerners, okay? And a lot of these guys started to become validated and get slammed back in the shoe. Now, I watched JD's video, and he was absolutely correct when he said a lot of these guys started to get paroled, and they went back to their comfort zone. He's absolutely correct in saying that they went back to Texas, they went back home, and what happened is a lot of these guys got incarcerated back home. And the Texas Syndicate gang that started, or organization, prison organization that started in California, set its roots down in Texas. And in the 70s and 80s, it became a pretty well-recognized organization. These guys were solid hitters, killers, straight up killers. Texas Syndicate, they were seasoned. We're talking about individuals that took on two of the big four in California and held their own for a while, right? So now for them to go out in Texas, they were known, they were well recognized, and they started to recruit and build numbers. Now, times change, eras change, things change. We all know that different groups started to take over the Texas system. You know, Tango Blast being the most recent, that have guys from Houston, Dallas, several other areas in Texas, right? And they've blown up. I mean, it's probably the biggest thing going in Texas. Now, these guys are not as organized as the Texas Syndicate was, or even California prison gangs are, but they have such numbers and they're so deep that they've overtook the system, the Texas system. Okay, and they're very well recognized, they're very well respected. And when you have the numbers, you have power. I've said it in several videos. That's why the Southsiders are such a dangerous gang, such a dangerous group in California, because numbers, sheer numbers, man, you cannot overcome. You could be the hardest guy in the world, but you can't beat 10 solid dudes. It just ain't going to happen, right? So Texas Syndicate started to become less and less. And these youngsters and these people that they were once recruiting started to fall into the laps of being Tango Blast and joining that group. So you don't much hear about the Texas Syndicate anymore. I'm sure there's still some. I'm not too sure if they're that prevalent in the Texas system. Tim Snow would know. But there are still some. Now, as far as what Dubs was saying is gang members from Texas coming and establishing on the California yards, that could never happen. Not in this day and age that we live in. And I'll tell you why. Again, you will already be a part or up under the wing, and not up under the wing like you're a sucker, but up under the organization's grasp. You will be up under the politics of the Southerners or the Northerners. And if you try to get out onto that prison yard and start something based off your different state, you're going to get whacked. It's not going to happen. There's rules already set forth that say no other Latino, Chicano, Tejano, Raza, gang, or organization will or can be established in the state of California. That's just the bare facts. Now, does it mean guys from Texas are going to be automatically whacked and beat up because they're not from California? Absolutely zero. No, that's not even close. You could be from any different state, represent your state well, as long as you understand that while doing time in California, you will adhere to those politics. And if you don't, you're going to get whacked. That's the truth. Now, I seen that I think Tim Snow took it kind of wrong when Dubs made his video. And I think he felt that Dubs was saying that Vatos from Texas couldn't hang, or Vatos from Texas wouldn't be allowed to function on the yards. And I'm here to tell you that's not what that Vato meant. That Vato's saying it just the way I'm saying it, just from a different side. Things have changed. Rules have changed. They changed from the 70s and the establishment of the Texas Syndicate to now. Nowadays, the only place you'll see new groups or gangs spring up is on the SNY yards or the 50-50 yards. You're not going to see any new groups or gangs established in the general population. What's established is already there. It's going to stay there until they decide otherwise. That's a fact. Now, the Texas system, I don't know how it's ran, but I hear it's one of the most vicious systems in the United States. I heard it's dangerous. I heard you have to go over there and prove yourself. You have to catch a fade immediately to be approved, right? Basically, you have to go over there and let people know that you stand up for yours. I respect that. I respect the being allowed to catch a fade. I respect the being allowed to come from the shoulders with someone and not have to worry about being stomped out and establish the fact that you're not a sucker. Kind of reminds me of the youth authority. That's what you had to do. You had to take a fade. You had to prove yourself before you're just allowed to function on them yards. Nobody wants to be around a coward or a sucker, so you have to show what you're about. See, in the state of California, it's not like that. In the state of California, once you're a part of a group, you're protected by your people, but you will raise your hand and you will put in your work. Okay? That's how they measure a man if he's a coward or not. By if you get involved in things and you could take directives. Now, to some people, well, that ain't a man. That's, just doing what you're told. But when you're in the California system, you get to understand very fast that you are no longer in charge of your life as a man. Yeah, you make the ultimate decision whether to say yes or no, but no will get you killed. No will get you killed. Whether it be from the K9 or those sending the directives. That's just how it is. Now, I could see Tim got a little bit of he was a little on edge when he was talking about what Dub said, and he disagreed a lot. It's not a competition, bro. It's not who's harder, California or Texas. There's hard vatos from everywhere. It's not one state is more vicious than the other. It's never been that. Everyone's equal. The raza, the blacks, the whites, everyone's got their own thing going, and everyone demands and should demand their respect. If I go do time in Texas, how's it going to be for me? Let's just take, for instance, I'm a non-active gang member. It's probably going to be rough, right? There's probably going to be people that don't appreciate that fact, so I'm going to have to fight my way out of some shit. But let's just say I was active, general population, all that, and I go to Texas. Would I be recognized and embraced for my affiliations, or am I going to have it rough? I can't tell you for a fact how it's going to be because I don't know. It depends, I guess, on where I go and who I'm around. But I can tell you for facts in the state of California, every prison that is active, they all function on the same page. So you can go to a 3 or a 4 yard and guess what? It's going to be exactly the same. There might be some more viciousness and real serious things going on a 4 180 just because Vatos ain't never getting out and they don't give a fuck like that. But you're still going to have to adhere to the rules and regulations and procedures and politics of the group that you're affiliating with. And again, you're not going to be allowed to come from Texas or any other state and start to establish gangs and say, hey, this is what I am and I'm doing my own thing. I'm solo. No one walks solo in California. It just doesn't happen. So I think Dubs, JD, Tim Snow, they all made valid points. You know, the point that Dubs made is absolutely correct. There's no way in this day and age and under these politics, and this is a man that did 20-something years in prison functioning. There's no way that you're going to be able, it doesn't matter what state you're from, come out to California and set up shop and they're going to let it go. There's rules against that. As far as JD saying that there are hitters and their motherfuckers are down everywhere, he's absolutely correct. I wholeheartedly believe that, and I approve that message. And as far as Tim Snow speaking facts and telling you how it is in the Texas system, he could do that. But there's no way a man that's never been to California can tell you exactly for a fact what's going to happen in California. Just like there's no way for a fact I could tell you what will happen in Texas because I don't know. This rivalry that seems to be behind the scenes between Texas and California, and you see it all the time, especially when the name SPM gets brought up. And I know Tim Snow does not care for SPM, and I think that's how we first chopped it up in the beginning, was we both did videos on SPM and we both had pretty much the same outlook on it. And I know this Vato's coming up for fucking parole in October. Will he be paroled? One never knows, does one. But there's a lot of people that do back his play up from Texas and do think because people from California mention his name in a bad light that they're trying to basically be disrespectful towards Texas. When that ain't the case, nobody, don't matter what state you're in, should like a chomo. Anyways, with that being said, that's my take on it. I know there's no ill will between any of these guys that made these videos. I just wanted to give my 2 cents on, will someone from Texas be able to come out and establish in California? And the same thing, would someone in California be able to go out and establish in Texas? Now, as far as what I hear, there are Southerners, Southsiders in Texas. I don't know how deep they are. I don't know what they're about. But it seems like the California influence is already there and has been allowed to be there. In California, it's a different story. They don't recognize other groups or gangs from different states. You're either going to get in with the homies, whether it's the North or South, or you're going to get stretched out, period. And that's only if you try to start a gang or try to fucking recruit people. If you just go in and you're proud to be from Texas and you're respectful, you're going to get all the love and you're going to function out there immediately. Ain't no problems, no issues. But you're going to listen to the rules like everyone else. That's what every man does. I did it, and they would have to do it. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, strive, and give it to you. Uncut, raw knowledge you can't get in college, man. Some might like it. Some might love it. You know, some people love me. Some people hate me. Some people love me. Some people shake my paw. Some people mug me. You best to catch me. I'm coming smebbing. I did that shit in 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, and onwards. The gun. Bang, bang.